on the prairies. Outside, a chill grips the air. Inside, it's time to heat things up.
Hard! Hooray! Come on, guys!
32 teams from across the province earn their way to Brandon for this week, all with a single purpose: to overcome their peers and become the champions of the Safeway Select. Led by the defending champion, Jeff Stoughton, the Big Three face some challenges en route to the Final Eight. Stoughton was forced to steal a win from Pembina's Randy Neufeld. Kerry Burtnick would have to sneak by Neepawa's Kelly Robertson. And even in victory, Vic Peters admitted he was out-curled by Thompson's Dean Stewart. There are new faces in the championship round as well, led by Don Spriggs of Portage and Murray Warren of Medora. For the victor that lifts the Safeway Select Trophy, the next challenge begins, because in Manitoba, the expectation is that a Brier Championship will follow. This afternoon, it's the A-side final of the 2000 Safeway Select, and you'll see it live on Global.
This is the 2000 Safeway Select Men's Provincial Curling Championship live on Global. Brought to you by Canada Safeway. Select premium quality.
Like a freight train, Jeff Stoughton hadn't lost a game at the Safeway Select since 1998. A year ago in Portage, he steamed through the field with 8 straight wins to claim his 3rd Manitoba championship. At this Select, he's won his first 4 games. This morning, though, he fell behind early to Vic Peters, but battled back to even the score at the break. However, Peters, a 3-time winner himself, would derail the Stoughton Express in the 6th with this precise double takeout to score 4. And there would be no rally this time as Peters won 8-7, stopping Stoughton's streak at 12. The other A-side semifinal saw Portage's Don Spriggs draw the button in the 10th for an 8-7 win over Murray Warren. On the B-side, another 3-time champion, Kerry Burtnick, rebounded from a stunning extra-end loss last night to bounce the 4th seed Pat Spiring out of the Select 9-2. And the Snake still slithers at age 60. Barry Fry kept his hopes alive while ending the hopes of Hemiota's Alan Lawn 8-5. 8 teams started the championship round. Only 6 remain and only 2 are undefeated, and they'll play in the A-side final. Don Spriggs against Vic Peters, our feature game today on Global. 2 other B-side quarterfinal games, and we'll be keeping a close eye on these. Kerry Burtnick against Jeff Stoughton, and Barry Fry, the veteran, against Murray Warren. Good afternoon, Manitoba, and welcome to Brandon's Keystone Center. I'm Joe Pascucci. This is Global's coverage of the 2000 Safeway Select as we crown Manitoba's first men's curling champion of the 21st century. And joining us once again this year, 2-time Canadian champion Kathy Gauthier. And Kathy, let's talk about the A-side final, and let's talk about the veteran, Don Spriggs.
Well, sure. Don certainly has worked very hard to get here. He's been in the Select a number of years. He's never cracked the Final 8 till this year. Certainly the forum charts wouldn't have said he should be here, but obviously he's doing something right to get here. And the 2 have met earlier this year, Peters and Spriggs, and Don came out on top of that one.
Working on my right, a Manitoba champion, Don Finkbeiner. And Don, we know a lot about Vic Peters, don't we?
Well, of course, Vic Peters is considered one of the top 3 teams in this province, and if not in Canada, really one of the super teams in all of the country. And he's just come off a great win against Jeff Stoughton, the defending champion, and he's really on fire. But he'd be the first to admit that he's very lucky. Last night against Barry Fry, he actually fluked the game to get this far. So he's really got maybe the curling gods on his side. So I think he can taste it. He's 1 game away from the final, and it's theirs for the taking.
It's the A-side final this afternoon on Global. Don Spriggs and Vic Peters. First in action coming up from Brandon after this.
Granny's Manitoba poultry hits the spot with every mouthful. Imagine the warm aroma of a Granny's turkey fresh out of the oven. As its sweet smell wafts through the house, it takes you back to family celebrations of days gone by. At Granny's, we're dedicated to making your family gatherings memorable year after year. Granny's Poultry, proudly Manitoba's only turkey processor.
Farm fresh taste and country goodness, Granny's.
It's $1 million twice a week. It's a game we call our own. Yeah. Western 649, here at home.
Play Western 649 at any Manitoba Lottery Ticket Centre.
Western 649, get a grin from ear to ear.
Okay, smile.
And remember this, my friend, the buck stop here, buck stop here.
Well, what'll it be, sweetheart?
Let me guess. A nice cold Pepsi. I wouldn't want to hear one of those crazy voices of yours, huh?
Honey, you ain't heard nothing yet. Hit it, fellas. Joy bubbles, joy fun, joy of Pepsi on your tongue. The greatest taste sensation on the sun. You go, girl.
Kevin, get some sleep.
I can't.
Don't do this to yourself.
It's all my fault. I was going too fast. I destroyed a family.
I know.
It was my sister who convinced me that I really could save on my taxes with Crocus. She was right.
Manitobans everywhere are combining their RRSP savings with the special tax credits available when buying Crocus. Look at the results.
I think it was my best investment.
That's real performance. Want to know more? Call Crocus, your financial advisor, or credit union.
As morning breaks in communities all across Canada, Robbins helps you start your day with our special blend coffee.
A full-bodied brew, guaranteed fresh on the first taste, or we'll replace it.
And Robbins mealtime combos and freshly prepared subs are welcome anytime.
At work or at play.
Part of your community. You always get a break at Robbins.
Welcome back, and at this level, you can't win unless you can read the ice, Kathy Gauthier.
And probably more so than any other year, it is really tricky. From the inside out, the rocks move very gradually, but they do move 3.5 to 4 feet. What is really significant, you'll see, is from the outside in. The rocks move gradually, but as they die, they break about 4.5 feet sideways, making anything possible. It's 24 seconds. It's tremendous conditions.
Reading the Ice is brought to you by Manitoba Blue Cross, committed to caring, and by Granny's Poultry, always quality and freshness.
And to start this A-side final, Don Spriggs will have the hammer, and so Vic Peters' team is throwing the first rock, and there is their lead, Don Harvey.
Don't know if you had a chance to see how much ice that Vic was providing. He was out in the 12-foot, and as we talked about a little bit a second ago on reading the ice has really moves, and it breaks so hard at the end. And so what we have seen this week is a lot of 3 points, which hasn't suggested misses as much as virtually anything is possible. And even if a rock is completely buried, you can get to it. So a high guard is virtually useless. The one that Don has just thrown is in an ideal situation. It has to be within 2 feet of the house.
And throwing the lead stones for the Don Spriggs Portage team, former Vancouver Canuck, Rick Blight. And of course, former Brandon Wheat King as well. He played the first game in the Keystone Center when they opened the building for the Wheat Kings. And a nice shot from the former NHLer.
Well, he's made a great shot, and that's one tremendous thing. Well, there's a million tremendous things about Hans Withrich, of course, who's making the ice again, which is that the curlers, you will see them making a lot of great shots, which is not only a testament of their ability, but also that the ice conditions never change. From Wednesday when they started to today, and I'm sure tomorrow, and from the first end right to the 10th, the ice is 24 seconds. And so if you've got draw weight, you have always got draw weight. Because it's such a great shot, really the goal here for Don Harvey was just to come down on top of the one that Rick Blight had thrown to sort of set things up. Unfortunately for Don, it didn't finish as hard, allowing a relatively wide open shot for Rick.
That first run of Blight's is a great shot because now they can hit and roll off to the side of it, and all of a sudden, just at the very start, they got the Peters team in a little bit of trouble, particularly because the Spriggs was last rock. So Rick Blight, excellent shot right off the bat. So super start to the game for this Spriggs foursome.
Right away.
And so for Vic, even though this is not the shot stone, because it is exposed, the goal is to hit and roll, to potentially be shot, but certainly to ensure that he doesn't want to give up any more than 2 in the first end. And so this is the high percentage call.
Well, they're waiting for a hit and miss, perhaps, on the Spriggs team, so they can. You're right. You don't want to get fancy right off the bat in the first end.
Chris Neufeld with his first rock of this first end of the A-side final.
And of course, Chris, known as Denny, has been with Vic Peters probably since the dawn of man.
Gets the nose hit with a bit of an inside roll.
One of the things that we've been talking about, and that's been really noticeable that you might see, especially if you're a fan or you've been watching Dave Smith for a while, is a real different chemistry and personality on the Peters team from last year. Dave seems to have really found some inner peace, and he and Vic certainly have found some chemistry that was not there before. And Dave's playing very, very loose, and not. I mean, he still wants to win for sure, but that intensity that may have got him into trouble in previous years has just been absent all week.
And Dale Mickey with the nose hit.
Well, it's moved up a bit on the sheet now. It gives an opportunity here for Peters to make a double on that, so it's changed by hitting and sticking there. It gives him a chance for Chris Neufeld to make a double.
Yep. Hard. Real hard. Real hard.
Looks like just a hit and roll here.
Good shot. Good shot.
Well, it is a really good shot because not only does he leave his shot buried, but he's also moved the Spriggs shot into the open.
Oh, yeah, that actually is a perfect shot for him.
And he's right behind the guard.
No.
This is a key shot for Spriggs. He has to make sure he gets there. He also, if he can get partially behind the guard, it would help, because if he doesn't, he sets up a double for Vic to then hit and stick for 2. Possibly guarded. Well, that's taking off on him now. I think he's on the guard.
The
yeah.
movement that we
See how
spoke
it
about
moves.
earlier.
Yeah, he's split.
But he opens up the forefoot.
Well, he does, and you know, having last rock for Spriggs, that's not a bad option for sure. But as we talked about earlier, not only does the ice move, but it really does penalize you if you cheat a little bit on the broom. It's really important to get right out to the stick.
Yeah, apparently he looked like he got that started when he let it go.
Regular?
I think it'll go here.
Okay.
Normal hit.
Okay.
Again, really key communication between the backhand players, wanting to make sure that they really understand what we're trying to throw.
Hard. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yep. Whoa, whoa.
Oh.
Yeah, whoa,
whoa. Good throw. Good boy.
Started to go and then stopped and then started to go a little bit too. I think the weight was the key there, because he had a fair amount of weight on that, a little less, and I think it was really going to take off on him a bit.
Normal. Okay. Fairly thin on that side. All right.
The third for the Spriggs foursome, Dean Moxham.
And so for Dean, he's hoping to make the double, but certainly one of the options if it doesn't complete will be the hit and roll.
Oh, great shot. He's going to spin out of the house.
I think he sort of hangs around. One of the things that we've also seen is that the house is very fast.
And Rick Blight actually accidentally touched one of the guards, that yellow rock out in front of the rings, and Vic Peters just nudging it slightly.
So normal, Dave.
Precious biter, actually, because
A little more than the last one?
I think I have to go after it. Otherwise, he could get Dave Smith to come around either one of those center guards.
Quick.
Hard. Hurry. Hard. 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 Hard.
Ah. Good throw.
He said good throw. It was sort of moving out of his hand. We'll see if Dave and Vic talk about whether he actually...
They go hard and those outside. The sides now. I saw them.
He figured he was outside on that by the sounds of things.
It sounds like that
So it
just
really
did
took
move a
off on
whole
him,
lot
yeah.
more than he thought that it would.
Yeah, he wanted to stick around in there so it doesn't allow Spriggs to do this.
Hard. Hard. Right up. Hard. Right up, Mike. Hard.
Is he light?
Or did that rock
Yeah.
catch something?
Bounce it off. Bounce it off.
I don't know. It just...
As soon as it crossed the hog line, it just went left.
Which it tends to do.
With dying weight, it will, yes.
Why they're close enough to bury this, but...
And of course, this does sort of put the opportunity to Vic. He's got a couple of guards opting to go around his zone and taking a little bit more ice than he gave to Don Hervey earlier.
This is a good shot because if he gets partially in behind the guard, Spriggs has to hit and roll to the outside wide open if he gets it. Whereas if he goes around the center guard the other way, if he left it partially open, then Spriggs can hit and roll in behind his own guards there. So this is a good move for Vic.
Yeah. Hard then. Line will be okay.
Okay, good line.
Hurry.
Real hard. Real hard.
Hard.
Hard, 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 hard.
Hard.
Keep her
Come
going.
on, you guys.
Keep her going right in. Keep her going, keep her going.
See the finish, which is just wonderful
Every inch. Keep her going.
for curlers. I
Keep her
think
going, keep her going.
everyone watching wishes they'd have an opportunity to play on curling ice.
Let's check in on one of the other B-side quarterfinal games. This is the one between Barry Fry and Murray Warren. Murray Warren with the last rock in this first end. And he will get it into the rings, and Murray Warren will pick up a deuce on Barry Fry. And it's 2-0 after one.
Certainly the Cinderella story here this week, there's no question about it. Started with a defeat over Don Nelson, and he just kept rolling on from there.
Yeah, he has been a terrific crowd in here from the Deloraine, Medora area to watch him. You're right, he has been a Cinderella story. The two surprises here are Spriggs, although a many-time select competitor. This is the first time he's got this far. The other teams, everybody is well aware of, they expect to see at this level. But for these two teams, this has been a terrific few days for them.
So what Don has chosen to do, because Vic made that shot so well, is just to essentially ignore it and to use his own guards to go around. But I think that what we're seeing is just a little bit too much weight.
Line was good. If he had the proper weight, he's perfectly buried in behind there. Just a touch heavy for Don.
Talking with Don before the game, he mentioned the last time he got to this point was back in Dauphin.
Little buried. Okay.
Well, I think they decided at first they looked like they were going to put a guard on there, Kathy, but I think they decided to come right in behind.
Yeah.
Okay, their first option, they were talking about putting a guard here, but I think he'd like to just come in here if he can get partially in behind there to lie two and really put the heat on. Put the heat on Spriggs right off the bat.
Well, sure it does. And I know that Vic was sitting in the stands watching the last end of Don Spriggs and Murray Warren's game this morning. And when Don Spriggs threw his last rock, he got up and he walked away because his team was nowhere near the rock to sweep it. He thought he was heavy, and it did slow down on the house, and he took the point to win. So we just saw Don a little heavy again. So I guess for Vic, it's an opportunity to maybe force the game a little bit.
That girl is digging. Yep. Hard.
Good weight, actually perfect weight for him. Now he's ideal. It just took a long time for it to move. Just near the end, they're just coming into the house. It started to tuck in nicely. They didn't have an opportunity to sweep it all the way though, but still a fine shot for Vic. Again, putting the pressure on him right now. Spriggs missing that first one, but obviously when it should be able to have gone to school on that.
Line, once the line's good, guys, just finish her off.
This is
And
the
so,
13th, 13th provincial final for Don Spriggs.
And a very huge shot for him here because it does sort of set the momentum for the game.
Oh, is he going to get by this guard? I don't know.
Right to it, guys. Right to it, Dale.
By the guard, but
Great
he's cutting
sweeping.
over.
Right to it.
Will it still be shot?
Oh, excellent.
Great shot and tremendous sweeping by the front end.
So good job by Mickey and Blythe, and Don Spriggs picks up one in the first end as he leads this A-side final over Vic Peters, 1-0.
Come for the flavor, come for the taste, stay for the good times, you know the place. We'll treat you special, we'll treat you right. You're the reason Chicken Chef is cooking something good tonight. Come on out, come on in to Chicken Chef, we're cooking something good for you. Come on in to Chicken Chef, we're cooking up something good for you.
Curling brooms were once like this, but times change, things get better. Now a broom is like this.
The same is true with cell phones. They used to be like this. Now it's the Motorola V phone.
No one knows more about cell phones than Elite Communications, your MTS Mobility Center.
Our friendly experts can tell you all about the V phone.
And MTS Mobility's lowest rates ever.
Elite Communications, your MTS Mobility Center.
You really sweep well, Don.
Above and beyond the call.
The Safeway Select is brought to you in part by Elite Communications, above and beyond the call for your cellular, paging, and two-way radio needs. And by the Prairie Ford dealers, it's always been Ford.
Whoa, this is great!
What?
This! Have you ever seen so many beautiful vehicles? Whoa, look at that one!
Oh, they're very nice. Now, have you thought about how we're gonna get across?
We could run!
Need I remind you of what happened to Uncle Ernie?
Okay, really bad idea.
We could tunnel.
Well, you really are more than just a furry face. After you, monsieur.
Hey, there's no need to swear. Who's swearing?
Lazy Boy Furniture Galleries presents one sweetheart of a sale just in time for Valentine's Day. Over 150 gorgeous Lazy Boy chairs on display and priced as low as $379. Come in today and find your true love.
Now at Lazy Boy Furniture Galleries, you can save on more than 1,000 custom order fabrics, which means our furniture can adapt to any surrounding, not to mention any budget.
The first year of the Manitoba Tankard was 1980, and in that championship it was Earl Morris who would skip his team of third Claire DeBlonde, second Gary DeBlonde, and lead Winston Warren to victory. In the championship final, he faced Brian White to earn his first trip to the Brier. Morris, who was a member of Canada's armed forces at the time, would make 2 more trips to the Brier, representing the province of Quebec in 1982 and then Ontario in 1985.
Champions is brought to you by Elite Communications, above and beyond the call for your cellular, paging, and two-way radio needs. And by Icon Office Solutions, the way business gets communicated.
Boy, that's some vintage footage there, Don Finkbeiner. I almost thought that was you with the beard there.
Well, in my prime, that could have been me. But
let's check in on that other B-side quarterfinal game. It's Jeff Stoughton, Kerry Burtnick first in. Jeff Stoughton with the hammer and an open house to draw for 2, and he gets a big jump on Kerry Burtnick in a battle that, well, Kathy Gauthier, if the draw had been done properly,
well, there
would not have taken place, and that's the controversy that has developed in the Safeway Select, because they've discovered, because for the first time ever the top 4 seeds got through, that once they get to the championship round, the draw wasn't seeded properly.
Well, no, it wasn't. In fact, there's a young man out in Enola named Rylan Young who noticed it, and it was brought to my attention before I even got out here, which is that what is traditional is that the seeding, which is done by the curlers themselves, places it so that when you actually get into the playoff, 1 should play 4 and 2 should play 3 if the form chart goes. Well, what happened was when all 4 of the top teams qualified, they had 1 and 3 together and 2 and 4. So technically, the Burtnick Stoughton should never have been happening. What we should have had is a Fry versus one of them and a Warren versus the other. But the decision was that because the draw was printed and had not one of those top seeds come through, it might not have ever been raised. They said, yeah, it is a mistake and we will fix it for next year. And certainly I look back to last year and it didn't happen last year. So it was just a typo that unfortunately never got caught in. So one of our former world champions in Burtnick or Stoughton will be going home as a result of this draw.
But unfortunately, it has had an effect on the Select, because this morning, Vic Peters would not have been playing Jeff Stoughton.
Oh, there's no way. And the loser certainly wouldn't have been playing Kerry Burtnick.
Yeah, it will be a shame, obviously, with Burtnick or Stoughton being eliminated, even though they are getting pretty close here, and that's anything can go in curling. But it is a shame for those who watch these 2 teams, especially when they're playing in skins games and Brier finals, etc. So the curling public is used to watching them. So it is sort of a shame that one will be eliminated after this draw.
So in our featured game here, a tight guard, which is what we talked about, is really, really critical, and some really good berries, and unfortunately just being too tight together and a little bit of tapping and moving allows Don Spriggs to be in a situation now where he's drawing to lie 2. Of course, Vic does retain last rock, with Don Spriggs having scored 1 last stand.
Well,
close. Needs it.
Come
Watching the good sweeping here, and that when you saw that champions footage, to see the brooms going in action again did your heart good. I just paused for a moment there just to reflect back in time.
Oh, and Earl Morris, obviously a great gene pool. Besides his own championships, his son, of course,
a world champion.
A world champion last year and a Canadian the year before, and certainly the DeBlonds. I mean, you may have retired, a white-haired one, but the DeBlonds still very much a dominant force in senior men's, and almost qualified, and would have done a tremendous job had they been out here. Tremendous curlers.
No, they're phenomenal players.
They're great guys. They speak very highly of you, I find. That casts aspersions on their sanity, but.
Okay. Good shot.
Hoping, of course, to remove both of them, but the fact that his shooter stayed there, really tight to the house, those are certainly in great position for Vic. And, of course, of concern to Don Spriggs.
Let's quickly move over to sheet E in the game between Burtnick and Stoughton. This is the final rock of the second in, and Kerry Burtnick was hitting against 3, gets the hit and the bit of a roll, picks up a single point. Jeff Stoughton has the hammer and a 2-1 lead heading to 3.
And Kerry certainly was in trouble the entire end. It wound up to be an open hit for him, but he was in pretty much tough from start to finish. So interesting call by Don Spriggs here. Rather than be concerned with the tight stones that are in the favor of the Peters team, he's taken a very aggressive approach to this game against Vic and elected to promote his further. Vic asking Dave for the straight back. I apologize, Don.
No, I think you're right. He figures this is the closest he's ever come. He says there's no point in sort of waffling on strategy. You might as well play aggressively. If you're going to beat the Peters and the Stoughton Burtney kind of teams, you got to go after them.
Well, and as I said earlier, when I talked to Vic this morning, and I said to him, so what do you think about Don Spriggs? And he said, well, I lost him already once this year. So obviously Don found the magic earlier this year, and likely he did play a relatively aggressive game. You're not going to beat Vic Peters by playing it wide open.
But this is a whole new different pressure right now. It'll be interesting to see how Spriggs reacts to the pressure. It's really, I'm sure their team, the adrenaline is flowing greatly. The Peters team is used to this in a way, although for Vic, the last few years haven't been quite as successful in the Provincial, so this is good for him. He can taste it too. Both of them were within, obviously, this one win to getting into the final.
Well, I said that to Dave Smith, how important is this game? And he just said huge, and pretty much walked away. And he's looking at it very different as being a huge momentum builder. And Vic just said, by winning that game this morning, both of these teams with the current draw, Don Spriggs and Vic Peters, also go to B-side and will be in the semifinals this evening. And for the winner of this, if you come out tonight and you're a little bit flat, there is a tomorrow. For the loser, there may not be.
It's going to come off this one here. I like that better.
Okay.
Yeah. Quiet hit. Should clear it all.
Looked at a number of options, thinking if he hit 3/4 of this, he's likely to remove or at least move all of the 3 stones in front of the house.
Yeah.
Hard! Come on, you guys. Hard! Hard! Hard, 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 hard. Hard, roll it, Don.
Roll the shoot.
Roll it.
Good shot.
Nice shot. The only problem is he left the guard on the Spriggs shot in the 4-foot.
We talked about the draw and the problem with the draw and how it affected the top seeds. Well, it also affected Don Spriggs as well, because no matter what, after this game, he has to face the winner of Kerry Burtnick and Jeff Stoughton. So he goes from one former Manitoba champion and Brier champion to another.
Well, the reality is, all things aside, is that Burtnick and Stoughton wouldn't be playing each other had Burtnick not lost to Murray Warren last night. And at this level, 3 out of the 6 that are left are former Manitoba, Canadian, and world champions. So you're pretty much in tough anywhere you look right about now.
No, it's good.
We're also looking, too, remember, it goes back a while, but Fry is a former Brier winner, too, at 79.
Well, that whole team is champions.
And
Barry Fry.
Yeah, that is one good team. And actually, they are quietly going about their business here and looking very impressive, although they're in big trouble now.
Yeah,
in
just
a
look
way
at the scoreboard.
Warren, yes, I glance up
3-0.
and they're down 3. 3's not good at the start, but Barry's seen this before.
And on Spriggs, counting 2. Let's quickly go over to Sheet D, the other B-side quarterfinal game. Barry Fry and Murray Warren. This is the last rock of the second end for Barry Fry. And he rolls a little too far with the shooter. It's a steal of 1 for Murray Warren. And the farmer from Medora is leading 3-0.
Well, and the key there is not only the steal of 1, but the chance for 2.
Vic's asking what they can see. Just playing straight raise back.
What they can't see is anything. It's completely buried.
Nice for the tap back.
Take a look from the hack, see what you think. I kind of like the run back.
I like the run back. I just don't know the ice there right now.
So he's looking at with the guard out front here. He's looking at raising it straight back onto this, and the bonus would be a double off the back, but just a straight raise back is what they're trying.
Hard. 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 Hard.
Gets the front one, but not the back.
Well, and again, he's left, as Dave Smith did, that center guard, which is the advantage to Spriggs.
Spriggs is in an ideal situation now to steal. Perfect situation for a steal here.
Inch left, Steve. Full 4, guys.
41-year-old Don Spriggs, as I mentioned earlier, this is his 13th Provincials. Furthest he got was actually an A-side semifinal game, and that was back in Dauphin, and I believe the year would have been 1985.
And that would have been the former format, which kept you on A-side until you lost and then would go to B.
The year John Bubbs won.
Stop.
So you got the weight. Maybe a little heavy.
It's frightening when the third yells, "Will it stop?"
Well, he doesn't want to go behind the tee line and make it a little easier for Vic, which of course he's done.
Again, just seeing a little bit of what we've seen from Don Spriggs this week, which is just a little bit heavy. Not enough to hit the hack, but a little bit heavy.
Yeah.
Also didn't move on him really. But ideally he'd want that in behind the guard, almost biting the button. Would have been perfect for him.
Well, one of the things that we heard Don just say to his front end is that he thinks it's as quick as it's been, even quicker. We know that it's been running 24 seconds. Got a stopwatch up here in the booth. We'll take a look and see. Here, all they're worried about with Vic is line, because he does have backing, but right about now he has no line.
Boy, that's pretty quick here. Is he going to stop?
Well, it's Vic's first draw, and Don Spriggs did say he felt that it was quicker than it's been.
Oh,
It's a steal of two.
Wow.
Well, certainly it did fool Spriggs a bit, and did fool Vic.
3-0, Don Spriggs in this A-side final.
Business demands that you do it all, but why do it alone? Get all your business communication solutions from the experts who can help you accomplish more. We're Icon Office Solutions.
Get your tickets for the world's hottest event on ice. The Labatt Brier 2000. The Big Freeze is coming. Call Select-A-Seat at 1-888-9687-888.
The Safeway Select is brought to you in part by Labatt Light, right out of the ice, and by the Manitoba Pork Council, producing quality pork for Manitobans and consumers around the world.
Did you know? When cooked to perfection, pork will show just a hint of pink. The result? Pork that is not only nourishing and delicious, but tender and juicy. Pork with a hint of pink. It's okay today. Did you know? Trimmed to visible fat, today's pork is lean. So make pork a part of a well-balanced diet. For recipes, call our toll-free line today. And pick pork.
Jerry Little of Midtown Ford has always been a proud supporter of curling in Manitoba. He loves the teamwork, the same teamwork he brings to his dealership.
Working late tonight, Dennis?
Oh, just checking out some new angles, Jer.
That's the old team spirit.
Everyone working like a well-oiled machine to help the customer, Jerry thought. Midtown Ford, 750 Pembina Highway. Customers for life.
On the button.
It's been a great week so far in Brandon, and the host committee of this 2000 Safeway Select would like to thank their local sponsors, because you can't make an event like this happen without the support of many great businesses.
Well, there's no question about that. And they have done a tremendous job all week, and we have a guest with us, Rick Kress, who's the Deputy Mayor of Brandon. Thank you for letting us come back to your city.
Oh, we're just glad to have you here.
curling events are kind of synonymous with this place. So
that's for sure. What do you attribute the fact that you seem to have no end of volunteers in the city?
Well, I think they have fun with it. There's no doubt about it that there's been a whole volunteer cadre that's been developed over a great many events. We've hosted lots of national, provincial, and regional events, and they keep it fun, and people have gotten good at their jobs, so that at least they like to come back year after year to keep doing it.
Well, that's just tremendous.
Certainly someone who's come back home is Rick Blight with his rock of this third end, former Wheat King.
Hard. Hard, guys.
Well, and we're certainly seeing Don Spriggs put a lot of pressure on Vic. Vic did have a very makeable shot last end, but you know, the fact that he didn't make it in Steel 2 is also a testament to a very strong performance by Don Spriggs and his crew.
There you see the team members of the Spriggs foursome, and of course Vic Peters, three-time Manitoba champion and of course Brier champion in 1992.
Where is it? Well, Rick, you're talking about holding events here, but let's face it, this Keystone Arena there isn't a finer building in all of Canada for holding an event like this. The curlers just love coming out here, and I mean, the ice is always great here, but look at the place. It's pretty well jammed here this afternoon again. It's just an ideal venue for this. You got to be very proud of this facility. Winnipeg would love to have something like this.
Well, we are very proud of it, and of course I am biased. I used to be a general manager of this place in a former life and what have you, and so I'm all too familiar with what goes on at a championship like this. But it really does lend itself well to a curling championship and many other events, and we do appreciate getting the opportunity to host it so often.
One of a question that may not be very fair to ask you, but that doesn't ever stop someone like me. Because you've hosted so many major events, what has that done economically for the city of Brandon?
Well, it definitely is a shot in the arm. There's no question about it. Every time we have an event, there's lots of new dollars that come to the community, and that gets infused into the community, and then it kind of goes around and around, a multiplier effect, I guess we call it, and also the community of pride that you cannot put a price tag on. It's not as tangible, but it really does bond the community together, and we like that side of it as much as the dollars.
In the nose.
And of course, for Vic being in the situation now, he's not in a panic mode by any stretch of the imagination left, but he cannot afford to take too many more risks, and so really wanting to make sure that they eliminate this guard. A straight back would be ideal, but again, the movement of the ice it makes this straight back much more difficult.
Well, that was such a huge miss for him in the last, and that was, relatively speaking, a very, very easy shot for him just to come down to the backing like that. And maybe misjudged a little bit on the weight also on the sweeping and that, but what a key miss. You know, you're talking about a foot too heavy, and all of a sudden you give up a steal, and that's such a shift in momentum here for Spriggs. This is ideal.
Well, we will certainly get an opportunity later on to check the ice, but you know, one of the things that Don Spriggs just said before Vic threw was that he felt it was quicker than it had been. And if in fact that was the case, Don Spriggs had a little bit of latitude in where he put the rock. He didn't want to be behind the tee line, but for Vic he had to make it perfect, and unfortunately for him it caught him.
And for Don Spriggs, his team told me earlier today that they're a B-side kind of team because they always seem to qualify for events through the B-side. That's what they did here, losing their second game to Rob Ramage, but they got even in the B-side qualifiers. They beat Ramage 9-7 to advance to the championship round, and it's been wins after that.
Well, that was a wild win against Ramage in the second one too, because I think he was, was he two down coming home and got a 4?
He was 2 down and took 4. In fact, he scored 4 twice yesterday, and he was down twice, or rather down 2 points in the 8th end both times. So it's not when you count, it's how many.
Good last shot there by Chris Neufeld, almost making the raise. Takeout.
Come on! Through. Top 4. Line's good.
Yep!
Come on!
Through! Go now! Hard now!
Right up, guys. Right up. Hard! Hard. Keep it going. Keep it going. All the way. All the way. Go, Dino.
Good sweeping, guys.
It's a real good shot. It's perfectly buried. It's in front of the tee line. Again, Don Spriggs is playing in-your-face curling.
And Vic Peters has taken the more direct route to this A-side final. 5 straight victories, 3 in the A-side qualifying and 2 more in the championship. The one no bigger than the rest, but it was this morning over Jeff Stoughton, 8-7.
Spriggs is certainly turning the heat up on him in this end here. He's got him struggling all the way here. Dave Smith, if he can make a perfect raise back and bail him out here. Just about, not quite.
Vic Peters lying 1. All right, let's check in on the game between Kerry Burtnick and Jeff Stoughton. This is the third end, final rock for Jeff Stoughton, and it's a open hit for 3, and Jeff Stoughton has a commanding 5-1 lead on Kerry Burtnick, and he just keeps putting on the pressure.
Well, he certainly has, and his whole team has as well, and not really paying attention because of our A-side final, but every time that I have glanced over there has been a sea of yellow stones, which are the Stoughton stones. So certainly they've come out firing. And again, as John said, had Dave been able to make the straight back, it certainly would have been ideal.
Been easier for that.
Allowed the open hit. Of course, a good roll here would put Vic's team in pretty good shape. Dave Smith, probably one of the finest, in fact, probably the best in Manitoba at throwing the big, high, hard one.
What's out there? Stay close. Yep, yep. Hard. Well. Hey! Whoa! No.
So, Rick, I'd like to put a little pressure on you here. And who are you hoping for? Who do you think is going to make it into the final here? Now, looking at it from a personal point of view and also from an economic point of view, what would you like to see here?
Well, I mean, we certainly have to throw a little bit of weight behind our Westman hometown fella here in Warren, and certainly all of these fellas, a great many of them are no stranger to this facility and into our community, and so you are putting me on the spot here.
No, go ahead. That's why you're used to this kind of pressure, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We never said we made any decisions.
No.
But we're diplomatic, aren't we?
Yes. But Warren, you'd like to see. Actually, I was sitting in the crowd this afternoon or this morning watching, and 3/4 of the crowd was from Deloraine, Medora area. They were really pulling for him, and that was the last game to be finished, and nobody left the building until that game was over. So you're right. It adds a lot for people coming in from that area. They're used to coming into Brandon as a service center anyhow, but for this to come in and watch the curling, it's great, and it's good to have. You're right. Westman teams in here against the big city guys, so it's good for the economy of the building also.
Well, let's face it, this is as good as it gets. Any number of these people are no stranger to the national scene and have been there, and Burtnick, Stoughton, Peters, a whole host of them. Of course, as you mentioned earlier, our former hometown guy and Blight has come back here. We actually just honored Brian Propp last week.
Well, I see his banner up in the rafters here. You retired his sweater, is that just the banner up there with Brian Propp?
Yeah, well, he was named to the CHL All-Star team.
All-Century team, Brian Propp, number 16. Well, Rick, thank you very much for joining us up here, and we look forward. I think I've heard a rumor about the 2002 or 3 Scott Tournament of Hearts.
Yeah, they've got a few things in the works, so thanks for having me, and thank you folks for being here once again, and we'll see you at the next one.
You betcha. Thanks.
Thanks, Rick.
Yep.
Well, and for Vic, the way that Don Spriggs made the last shot, which was perfect, the hit and stick, there's no advantage to him hitting it anymore. A really good shot here, could lead to 2, and he's certainly made that.
Yeah, but Spriggs now goes for the raise on the other side, just a sort of an angle raise hit.
Yeah, I don't want much more weight. Not much more weight in the head.
I didn't know where you wanted to go. You go back, then you draw.
Yeah.
This is
the draw's right behind. Except Donnie, full 8 is easier slap back than if it all curls all the way over, right? It's a little bit of separation.
Yeah, that's why I was telling on top of the button. That's
you need to try to get it where it's right in between.
Pretty easy shot.
Yeah, you just do it.
The discussion here, of course, is where the rock was left. Vic's saying that, he essentially throws the same shot. He's going to be able to pick it out, and it's going to be very difficult for Vic to be able to score. So they're wanting to either leave it really high or take it right back.
No, he's got
He
it.
certainly has it. There's
He's got
no
a
doubt
perfect
about
shot.
that.
Look at this. Oh, no, actually, they should have been on it.
Why is that, Don?
Well, they didn't want it to come up as much.
If they'd stayed on it, Joe, what happens is the rock stays further. He makes more fuller contact with the one in the
And he
forefoot.
would have kept the rock in the forefoot. Now he's and then been in an ideal situation to steal. So they should have stayed on it.
No wind there. You go back and he freezes.
A little frustration in Vic's voice there.
Same weight.
Well, there really shouldn't be, because he did make the shot well, and it's true that Don Spriggs had an opportunity to really, you know, stick it to Vic if he'd made the nose, but all Vic needs is full 12.
And now Dave Smith is coming out to help.
Real hard.
Oh, they better get it in there or they're in big trouble here.
Real hard. Keep
Boy,
it
I
going.
think.
Keep it going.
No.
Oh, look
Oh,
at
my.
this.
Same
Wow.
weight.
What? Wider.
Well, you heard Dave Smith said Vic Peters was a little wide with his delivery. And Don Spriggs, 5-0 after 3 ends on Vic Peters. Back to the Keystone Center after this.
Driving is all about control. Not having maximum control depends on your tires. So how are your tires? Really? So when's the last time you checked? You can't remember. This does nothing for Reg the Rubberman's ego, but Rubber understands. In fact, it's because of your lack of thought about tires that Rubberman is in a constant state of readiness. When a call comes in and there's a tire down, no one reacts faster. Listed in the yellow pages under Mere Tire, because there's no listing for super fast, super affordable tire specialist.
It's $1 million twice a week. It's a game we call our own. Western 649. Here at home.
Play Western 649 at any Manitoba Lottery Ticket Center.
Come on. Western 649. Get a grin from ear to ear.
Okay, smile.
And remember this, my friend. The buck stop here. Buck stop here.
The Safeway Select is brought to you in part by Granny's Poultry, always quality and freshness, and by Western 649, our own 649 game.
Granny's Manitoba Poultry hits the spot with every mouthful. Imagine the warm aroma of a Granny's turkey fresh out of the oven. As its sweet smell wafts through the house, it takes you back to family celebrations of days gone by. At Granny's, we're dedicated to making your family gatherings memorable year after year. Granny's Poultry, proudly Manitoba's only turkey processor.
Farm fresh taste and country goodness, Granny's.
Lazy Boy Furniture Galleries presents one sweetheart of a sale just in time for Valentine's Day. Over 150 gorgeous Lazy Boy chairs on display and priced as low as $379. Come in today and find your true love.
Now at Lazy Boy Furniture Galleries, you can save on more than 1,000 custom order fabrics, which means our furniture can adapt to any surrounding, not to mention any budget.
It's the A-side final of the 99 Select, and Jeff Stoughton is about to put the game away against 95 champ Kerry Burtnick. 8th end action and already lying 2 behind cover with the hammer. Stoughton executes this perfect hit and roll to lie 3 buried. Burtnick has no answer for this shot, and Jeff Stoughton takes a 7-4 lead on his way to capturing the A-side of the 99 Safeway Select.
Under Pressure is brought to you by Manitoba Public Insurance, proud to support the community, and by Pepsi, the joy of cola.
And I think without question, I don't think there's anybody right now better who throws the rock and who can make the improbable shots.
He does throw a beautiful stone. He's a tremendous curler, and his sort of record and stats speak for itself. And you know, he's not taking any prisoners out there this afternoon with Kerry Burtnick either. Up 5-1, playing 4. It's going to be tough to beat.
He's also a pretty good prognosticator, saying that The top 5 really had a chance to win this thing.
Well,
the
there
top
was
5 seeds made it to the championship round.
You know, there was a lot of dispute about that, and I guess maybe for some of the teams in it, they were a little sensitive about it. I don't know. I mean, maybe I read it wrong. I read it a number of times, and what I read that Jeff said was that there are a number of teams in this field that can go out and beat a Stoughton, beat a Burtnick, and beat a Peters, but at the end of the week, after 2 double knockout series, they're not likely to win the championship. Now, that is his opinion. And according to the records of these teams, that's a reasonable thing to say. Now, whether that offended people or not, that's a personal thing. But you have to point out to Jeff right about now that there's a Warren and a Spriggs out here who just don't care what the press says.
Yeah, that was not a controversial thing in a way, but it was made to be. But you're absolutely right. I mean, he didn't say anything wrong or anything undiplomatic at all. The record stands. If you look at the 90s, and it really is. It is the Burtnicks, the Stoughtons, and the Peters that have dominated. And Dale Dugan.
No one else has come out of this province.
Dwayne Edwards in 90 itself, but other than that, it's been those big guys. And Dave Smith is a skip.
And Kerry Burtnick says one of the reasons for that is the better ice conditions that they have to play on. The ice made here by Hans Wuthridge, because he said in the 80s, because of the ice conditions, it was really a crapshoot.
Oh, I totally agree with you. Like, it even worse in the 60s and 70s in my time, especially with straw brooms when the ice was filthy when you played on it, and you never knew what a rock was going to do. You're right. So the super teams actually, they become very dominant. The guys that hit the circuit and play in the skins games, our big 3 here, they become even stronger, and it's very, very difficult to knock them off their perches, because the other teams don't play as much. But there are young teams out there. Probably the biggest disappointment for me right now is that Alan Lyburn knocked out so easily. Like, I think that is one super young team that should get into this group of elite curlers within the next few years. So
well, there's
there
no
are
question.
teams coming up.
There's also teams like Bramer with the Galbraiths this year. Chad McMullen certainly has a team capable of being on the ice right now, but it is a tough province to get to the select, and you cannot win unless you're here.
And you mentioned about a young team knocking off the big guns. Well, there's a veteran team right here with Don Spriggs knocking off one of the big guns in our game.
Don's in a position right now, he's looking at the rocks, and it's
got too many rocks
it's sort of
to
like,
play.
where the heck do I put this thing? I'm already lying 3. And with full credit to Don's team putting rocks where they are, let's face it, the 5-0 score has a lot to do with Vic Peters
Last rock.
missing his last stones in the last 2 ends. And so for Don Spriggs, he sees that there's an opportunity to shut the door, and there's no point in the free guard zone in trying to eliminate stones in the 4th end. And so his objective is to keep the pressure on Vic, because certainly some of the screws are loose.
Oh, he really has him really in deep trouble right now. Mind you, that rock's coming a little too far for him, but it's still in a good situation, because Vic, I don't know what Vic can do with it.
Same weight. Try to flop here. Same weight.
For some of the young curlers watching, this is a very good lesson, is that you're down 5-0 after 3. It's not important you get them all back at the same time, and so the correct shot here is to just position stones for later. And so what he's asking Chris to do is just to bump the stones back and bump the stones back. You have to keep your shooter in play.
But he's on the guard in front with this one.
Well, he's kept the 2 stones in play, but
Well, he's got enough rocks to utilize something here for, like Vic. He needs rocks in play in a way. Mind you, the rocks above the tee line are not what he wants to see.
Here are the top 8 seeds as selected by the curlers themselves, and as you can see, the top 5 making it through the championship round. Alan Lyburn was defeated. Don Nelson, the 8th seed, went out in 2 straight games.
yeah. I don't want to sort of suggest that anybody might have picked them as a dark horse. Actually, my favorite line from Don Nelson last evening in the saloon is, we said to him, what the heck happened to you? And his team was down and they lost in 4 ends the second game. They were trounced by Murray Warren, as it turns out. And Don was trying to convince his team to stay out on the ice for 1 more end to get into the 5th. And then he suggested they all walk off the ice at the 5th end break and never come back and just lose on the time count violation. So they would have no part of that.
Another look at this perfect guard in this situation here. Boy, Vic is in big trouble now. He's going to have to start clearing something. can't get at anything.
Well, he is. Don Spriggs' team is putting them in the perfect spot. And don't kid yourself, it's very difficult to be in the position that Don Spriggs' team is in. The game is yours to lose at this point. You're up 5 points, playing a great team in the third end. Even though you're line 4, you keep thinking.
Not if I hit what I can see.
It's normal.
He figures he can get by this. Dave yelled down, thinks he can get by and hit the one in the top of the 8-foot, make a double, possibly even a triple.
Whoa. Ah.
Again, it's extremely important the shooter stay.
If anyone can make this shot, Dave Smith can.
Oh, great shot.
Good shot.
Now that is a great shot because he saved the shooter. He takes that guard, and all of a sudden they're in big trouble. Now he's got something to work with. He's not out of the woods by any means, but he does have something to work with.
Can't believe you didn't have
We're 1 and 2. I like this for now.
Make sure we get over there, I guess, eh?
We will.
So a couple of options for Don Spriggs. The tendency might be to eliminate the Peter Stone that Dave Smith just threw, but as he pointed out to his third, we're line 2. To throw a guard on that side of the house means that Peter's team is going to have to continue to pick away at it.
Go. Go.
Wow.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yep.
Whoa. Wow. 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 Wow.
Not coming over.
Yep.
Get it off of there.
Yep.
There it comes. I think just enough.
Very nice shot.
Just blocks it off.
Let's quickly go over to sheet D and the game between Barry Fry and Murray Warren. And Barry Fry is on the board, though it did take some sweeping effort to get it there. Barry Fry with the hit, the takeout, 4-2. He trails Murray Warren by 2 as they go to the 5th.
And certainly lots of game left there.
Hard for line. Where's the weight? Looks heavy. Looks heavy.
Room.
It's heavy.
Lots of weight. Whoa. Whoa.
Down for second shot. Just a touch heavy.
That's a quick spot.
Yeah, that's a very quick spot.
If we ever get at something here.
What if we go right there, though?
Yeah, it's not any deeper than that. 2 feet.
No.
Right? A little wider.
Yep.
Well, certainly we heard Dave Smith say something that Don Spriggs has said and that Vic has said, is that they all feel it's a little bit quicker today. He likes the sort of the line of where he threw it, but he needed to be shot. Now for Don Spriggs to throw a guard. Again, what you heard Don say is it needs to be tight.
Just a titch further.
Within 2 feet.
This is faster.